I am Lynell Rogers, and I know Allison just introduced me, but in case you missed that and you're wondering who is this rando, I know I'm not a cool person. I'm not a celebrity. I haven't written a book or any of that kind of stuff. But stick with me because I am a parent, and a lot of you here are parents, and I hope that maybe we could kind of connect today through that and through some of the experiences that I've had in the past couple years. I joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints right before I turned 19, sorry, I can't remember. And let's take these off. Okay, it's going well. I was an extremely enthusiastic new convert. And then I almost immediately went on a mission as soon as I could. And I served a mission to Minnesota. For the majority of my mission, I was in rural areas. And the first area that I served in was a newly established branch it covered a lot of small towns. The town that we lived in was very small. It didn't have a grocery store. We lived in an apartment above an old dentist office that was now the new branch building. Really, really small town. We didn't see any other missionaries or the mission president. We were there and we were kind of on our own, and I was ready. Not long after I arrived, a small local paper asked to do an article about us. So my companion and I did an interview. The article wasn't the most flattering, and much of what we had said was taken out of context. And I remember the mission president got a big kick out of the headline, which was something like, "The Mormon sisters are coming." So let's see if I hope I can do this. Yeah. I had to do an extremely deep dive to come up with this one. That's me on the left, and I have the same haircut. Anyway. So there we are. The article that was written about us and went distributed all over this area caused a big stir. And before long, word had gotten back to us that we were not welcome. A meeting had been held. There was talk of putting together a mob to run us out of town. And I know this is black and white, but this wasn't that long ago. But all right, recent. I'm very young. So they were going to run us out of town. So there's me, new missionary, new convert, mobs. What do I do? They didn't teach us this in the MTC. I want to remind you that this was not the 1800s. This was the late 90s, so we had cars and email and the Spice Girls, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Surely someone in the community would speak up for us. I mean, we'd done a ton of volunteer work at the food bank and the preschool, and we'd gone around and met with all the ministers and just done everything we can, to try to, serve and to help and to make a good impression on these communities. But it had not gone well. Why did so many people hate us? Would they really show up with torches and pitchforks? Surely someone would have the decency to step up and vouch for us. Wouldn't anyone tell these people that we hadn't done anything wrong? Now, I'm going to stop that very intriguing story right there to tell you that I know it's kind of anticlimactic, but we did not get run out of town. I'm sorry, that would be a better story. But I also am very sorry because I know you didn't come to Gather Conference today to hear my mission stories, but I promise that I do have a point, and we're going to come back around to that in a minute. So let's switch gears for just a second. I only have 2 slides, and this is the second one. My husband and I have been married for about 25 years. We have a fun mix of 6 kids, ranging in age from 23 to 7. Some of them are our biological kids. Some of them are foster kids that we are trying to adopt. We have always kind of been those people who always show up to church early, do all the callings, leadership, do all the extra assignments, always making sure my kids' shorts aren't like the tiniest bit above the knee, all of that stuff. And when it came to LGBTQ people in the church, I sort of had absorbed an attitude that I had been around, that the doctrine is the doctrine, and so you can either take it or leave it. I thought that was how it had to be. I did feel sorry for people and families who were hurting because of the policy or being mistreated by other members, but I felt like I had the responsibility, especially in a leadership capacity, to teach the doctrine and to tell them the policy, to tell them the rules. Sorry, it's out of my control. This is how it is. It seemed as if the only way to reconcile law and love was to say, I love you, but sorry, you can't be yourself. I wanted to understand and make sense of all of the LGBTQ stuff, but the way it is always seemed to loom larger than anything else. I'm kind of a rules person. My husband's a rules person too, and so, that's just kind of how we went with it. It wasn't until I got to know more LGBTQ people that my attitude started to change a little bit. Our oldest daughter, Kendall, on the far right there in the pink, was involved in the local YSA branch, and so we always had a lot of the young adults coming over to our house, and we became more and more aware that there were a lot more LGBTQ people in our area than we were aware of. We live in a very conservative area. I'm from Washington State. I don't know if I said that, I can't remember. And so, even though there were people who were LGBTQ, nobody was really coming out. They were keeping quiet about it. One person who did come out publicly was a family friend named Bethany. She had been a Young Women when I was Young Women president in our ward. And after she came out, I started thinking a lot about the things that I had said when I was Young Women president, to her and to all the other youth who I just, of course, assumed were straight and cisgender. I had tried my best, but I had fallen really short without even realizing it. So my husband and I stopped being annoyed about supposedly being inconvenienced by LGBTQ people, and we became more concerned about actual people, not lumped together as a faceless group of them, but as individuals that we knew and cared about. We started worrying less about who or who wasn't following the rules, and more about things like who's sitting alone, who feels excluded, who doesn't have a place to go for the holidays. Our daughter Kendall was called to serve a mission in Salt Lake City, and while she was serving there, she covered many stakes and wards, and by coincidence, she worked briefly with a certain Relief Society president named Allison Dayton, founder of the Lift and Love Foundation. What are the chances? That's weird. Meanwhile, back at home in Washington State, I suddenly had a strong prompting that it was time for me to go back to school. Even though I had young kids at home, I was really busy with callings and everything. I had no plan of what I was going to do. I couldn't explain it, but I had to go back to school. I felt propelled towards doing something, that it was urgent and very specific, even though I had no idea what it was. Ultimately, I felt impressed to get a degree in web design and development, of all things. And that means computer programming, social media, web design, all that kind of stuff, which of course, frumpy middle-aged moms who don't know what Snapchat is always go into computer programming. Social media. And I'm not going to lie, it was very difficult for me to do. I am more of like a creative type person than a logic, computer-y, math, science person, and that's what a lot of computer programming is. It was difficult for me, but I just kept getting this feeling, there's something you have to do, there's something you have to do. And I felt this inspiration. I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I couldn't give up. After I graduated, I was on the fast track back to my old job as an unpaid volunteer mom. But every day I wondered, What was this important job I had been so inspired about, and how would I find it? Well, shortly after my daughter Kendall had returned from her mission, she called me up with urgent news. Mom, she said, what are you doing? And then she didn't let me answer, and she just kept talking. Stop it. Stop whatever you're doing. I don't care. This is more important. She told me about Allison. She told me about Lift and Love. I'd never heard of it. She said that she'd heard that they were looking for someone to help with social media, and I need to call her right now. So I did contact Allison right away. We met over Zoom. We kind of hit it off, and I immediately knew that the work that Allison was doing was inspired by the Lord. And I don't throw that phrase around lightly. I knew it, and I wanted to help. So I've been working for Lift and Love since 2021. I do the website and social media kind of stuff, and I just feel really lucky that I received those inspirations that I could, contribute in some way. And then meanwhile, my husband had started listening to podcasts and started reading books, and we started talking more and more about LGBTQ issues. And, what would we do if we had an LGBTQ child? Just theoretically, because all of our kids were straight. Well, it turned out they were not all straight. Last year, our two oldest daughters came out as bisexual, and my husband and I feel very fortunate that we were able to be prepared in this way without even realizing what was going on. So when they came out to us, we were able to respond in a positive and supportive way that, I don't know how I would have responded a couple years before that. I would have been very worried. I would have been very concerned. Now our only concern with them is that we want them to be happy, and we want them to be safe. I was worried about how they would be treated, especially the second youngest one. She's only 14. Most of the response has been positive and supportive, but we've gotten some mixed reactions. A few people have expressed surprise that we allow our kids to be bisexual. Since we are active members of the church, let me be clear, we didn't allow it. This is how they were created. It never occurred to us to try to change who they are. They don't need to change. They're pretty great the way that they are. My 14-year-old daughter, Wake, is, as far as I'm aware, the first openly LGBTQ person in our ward. Since she's come out, she was called to the Young Women's Class Presidency and the Stake Youth Council and is regularly asked to do prayers and speak in sacrament meeting, and I think that's awesome. My oldest daughter, Kendall, is 23, and it would be very wrong of me to mention that she's single, so I won't. She's not here. She doesn't know I'm saying this. Oh my gosh, I'm out of time. Sorry. I have a lot to say about myself, as always, but let me just get to the end. On Sundays, you'll find me in church, same as always, but now I have an added sense of purpose because I am there in case my kids or anyone else's kids need someone to speak up for them, to vouch for them. I don't want anyone to look around in vain for someone who will accept them and love them. I want to say, like I desperately wanted someone to say to me back when I was a missionary, these are good people. They haven't done anything wrong. We want them here. They are worthy of love and respect. They can sit with me. You are welcome in my class, and I will speak up for you. And that's where I am as a newer person to the whole LGBTQ community, and a new mom of LGBTQ kids has been quite a turnaround for me. But I'm so thankful for organizations like this that kind of have given me and my husband a place to turn and a place to get answers. And I still have 40 seconds. Okay, I'm going to talk really fast now. One time, I'll tell you something really terrible. I one time told my daughter, Kendall, oh, she's gone now. We're out of time. Oh, now we are out of time. All right, never mind, I didn't tell her anything. Anyway, she's 23. She lives on the East Coast. All right. Thank you very much.